So just the way you like it. So good, so fresh. The way you like it. Just the way you like it. Get up on your feet. This is a shakedown.
오케이, 초등 스토리텔링 들어가도록 하겠습니다. 첫 번째 문장부터 들어가죠. 어렵지 않았고요.
Whoever gets 2 out of 3 questions right
뭐 합니까?
wins.
자, 질문 몇 개 맞추는 사람.
Whoever gets 2 out of 3 questions right wins.
자, 3개 중에서 질문 2개 맞는 사람이 이기는 거야. 그래서 out of 3 question이라고 표현했는데요. 이 앞에 요 3을 연상해 주시면 되겠습니다. 한 번 더 가죠.
Whoever gets 2 out of 3 questions right
뭐 하는 거예요?
wins.
이기는 거예요.
The dragon scales will decide who is right. The dragon scales will decide
자, 용의 저울이 결정할 겁니다.
who is right.
누가 이길지요?
The dragon scales will decide who is right.
오케이, 다음 표현이요.
Okay,
자, 홀리가 얘기했어요.
said Holly. Okay,
said
said
Holly.
Holly.
한 번 더요.
Okay, said Holly.
이건 뭐 어렵지
The
않았고요.
dragon was not used to
자, 용은 익숙하지 않습니다.
The dragon was not used to The dragon was not used
뭐를요?
to this kind of content.
This kind of content.
content.
The
The
dragon-
dragon was not used to this kind of content.
그렇죠, 다음 표현이요.
But he knew that he knew
자, 그가 알고 있던 건 뭐예요?
that whoever is biggest and strongest and scariest
자, whoever is biggest and strongest and scariest. 자, 힘이 크고 힘이 세고 그리고 아주 무서운 사람이
always wins.
항상 이긴다는 걸 알고 있었대요.
He knew that whoever is biggest and strongest and scariest always wins.
자, scariest 하게 되면 이렇게 무서운 공포 영화를 연상하시면 되겠습니다. scariest 한번 해보죠. 뭐라고 표현했죠?
Scariest.
그렇죠. 다음 표현이요.
So he nodded.
자.
So he nodded.
자, 그가 고개를 끄덕였어요.
So he nodded.
He nodded. 한번 더.
So he nodded. So he nodded.
Okay.
The dragon gave his scales. The dragon gave his scales to the teacher.
자, 그 저울을요 선생님께 주었다란 얘기죠.
The dragon and Holly stood back to back.
자, the
The
dragon
dragon
and Holly
stood. The dragon and Holly stood. The dragon and Holly stood back to back.
한번 더. back to back. 한번 더. back to back. 다음 표현요.
They took 1, 2, 3 steps.
자, 어렵지 않았고요.
Which weighs more? Which weighs more?
자, which weighs more? 어떤 게 더 무게가 많이 나갈까?
1 apple or 2 peas?
One apple or 2 peas. 한 번 더요. 갑니다.
Which weighs more? Asked the teacher. 1 apple or 2 peas? 1 apple or 2 peas?
One apple or 2 peas. 다음 표현요.
The dragon snorted.
자, dragon story. 이게 용이요. 비웃음 쳤어요. 자, story. 자, 이렇게. story. 오케이. 자, 연상하시고요. story 들어갑니다.
Snorted.
한 번 더. story. 한 번 더. story. 한 번 더. story. 자, the
The
dragon.
dragon snorted.
The
The dragon
dragon snorted.
snorted. Everyone knows
자, 모든 사람이 알고 있죠?
that 2 things weigh more than 1 thing.
두 개가 하나보다 무게가 더 많이 나가. 이것을 알고 있었다는 얘기예요.
Everyone knows that
two-
2 things
the two things
weigh more than 1 thing. That 2 things weigh more than 1 thing.
He said.
He said.
한 번 더. everyone.
Everyone knows that 2 things weigh more than 1 thing.
그렇죠.
So 2 peas weigh
두 개의 콩이요.
weigh more than 1 apple.
하나의 사과보다 더 많이 나가. So,
So 2
two
peas weigh more than 1 apple.
자, 한 번 더. So two
So 2
peas.
peas weigh more than 1 apple.
한번 더.
So 2 peas weigh more than 1 apple.
오케이, 다음 편이요.
2 thing don't always weigh. 2 thing don't always weigh. 2 thing don't always weigh
항상 두 개가 이게 무게가 많이 나가지 않아.
more than 1 thing.
하나보다. 한 번 더요.
2 thing don't always weigh more than 1 thing. 2 thing don't always weigh more than 1 thing. What matters is how heavy. What matters is how heavy.
가장 중요한 것은 뭐예요? How
How
heavy?
heavy the things are. How heavy the things
자,
are.
이번에 how heavy the things are.
How heavy the things are.
얼마나 무거운가? 오케이. 자, 그래서 제가 여기서 이제 heavy라는 표현은 이게 뭐 바나나가 무거워요, tomato가 무거워요. 오케이. 그래서 heavy 하면은요, 이제 무거운 거 연상하시고요. 뭐라고 표현했냐면
Matters is how
자, what matters
is how heavy the things
그죠?
are.
How heavy the things are.
How heavy the things are.
잘했습니다.
I know that an apple is heavier than 2 peas. That an apple is heavier than 2 peas.
한번 더.
That an apple is heavier than 2
자,
peas.
사과가 더 무겁죠?
That an apple is heavier than 2 peas. Let's see who's right, said the teacher.
오케이. 자, 요약 들어가서 한 번 더 합니다.
Whoever gets 2 out of 3 questions right wins.
누구든 세 질문 중 2개가 맞는 사람이 이기는 거야.
The dragon's scales will decide who is right.
드래곤의 저울이 누가 맞는지를 결정할 거야.
But he knew that whoever is biggest and strongest and scariest always wins.
그러나 그는 누구든 가장 크고 강하고 무서운 자가 이긴다는 걸 알았다.
Everyone knows that 2 things weigh more than 1 thing.
2개가 하나보다 무겁다는 건 누구나 알아. 그가 말했다.
What matters is how heavy the things are.
중요한 건 그것들이 얼마나 무거운지야.
오케이, 확인하겠습니다.
Whoever gets 2 out of 3 questions right wins. The dragon's scales will decide who is right. Okay, said Holly. The dragon was not used to this kind of contest. But he knew that whoever is biggest and strongest and scariest always wins. So he nodded. The dragon gave his scales to the teacher. The dragon and Holly stood back to back. They took 1, 2, 3 steps. Which weighs more? Asked the teacher. 1 apple or 2 peas? The dragon snorted. Everyone knows that 2 things weigh more than 1 thing, he said. So 2 peas weigh more than 1 apple. 2 things don't always weigh more than 1 things, said Holly. What matters is how heavy the things are. I know that an apple is heavier than 2 peas. Let's see who's right, said the teacher.
오케이, 오늘 여기까지 하겠습니다. 수고하셨습니다.